يا رايحين على مصر مين يبعت سلامي في كلمتين يا هلا الله، مشتاق لناسها الطيبين ودي ياما فيها مخلصين يا ما شاء الله، وفي أزهر العلماء تقدر تقول ما تشاء. ده أنا والله بدعي لهم رب السما وقولوا آمين إن شاء الله إن شاء الله.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا، وأنت يا حي يا قيوم تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا سهلا. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. اللهم لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. وصل اللهم وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. This is lesson number 7 in this series of lessons in which the objective is to provide a guide for a student who wishes to pursue serious studies in the school of Imam Shafii rahimahullah ta'ala. And we've been talking about the development of the Shafi'i school after Imam Shafii until the 14th century. And last time we talked about some of the major scholars that came in the 12th century, the 11th century. And today we'll continue inshallah and talk about the 12th, the 13th and the 14th centuries, after which we will talk about the golden chain inshallah. What's referred to the golden chain in the Shafi'i school. So in the 12th century, we have two major scholars that we need to know. The first one is Muhammad Sulaiman al-Kurdi. Muhammad Sulaiman al-Kurdi, who passed away in 1194 Hijri. And his main work that he is known for is Al-Fawaid Al-Madaniyah. Al-Fawaid Al-Madaniyah, which is a book that talks about a number of different things, but one of the most important things that this book is known for is it talks about how to give fatwa in the Shafi'i school, what are the books that are relied upon, what are the major scholars, what are the major terminologies. And so it is a very important book for anyone who wishes to delve deep into the Shafi'i school. And the second scholar that we want to mention from this century is Sulaiman al-Jamal. Sulaiman al-Jamal, who died in 1204 Hijri. And he wrote a number of different books, but the one that we want to mention here is his Hashiyah on Fathul Wahhab. His Hashiyah on Fathul Wahhab. And Fathul Wahhab, if you remember, is a book of Zakaria al-Ansari. Shaykh al-Islam Zakaria al-Ansari wrote Fathul Wahhab as his sharh of another book, which was Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad, his book, his summary of Minhaj al-Talibin called Manhaj al-Tullab. So Fathul Wahhab is a commentary on manhaj الطلاب by Zakaria Ansari, which is a summary of the Minhaj of Imam An-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala. So Imam An-Nawawi's Minhaj was summarized by Zakaria Al-Ansari into Manhaj al-Tullab, and then Manhaj al-Tullab was expanded by Zakaria Al-Ansari himself into Fath al-Wahhab, and then Sheikh Al-Jamal wrote a Hashia on Fath al-Wahhab that is usually printed with Fath al-Wahhab in the publications that you find today. So these are the two main scholars that we wanted to talk about in the 12th century. Now let's move on to the 13th century. And in the 13th century, we also want to mention two primary scholars. The first one is Sheikh Sulaiman al-Bujayrami. Who died in the year 1221 Hijri. And he also has a number of works. The one that I wanted to mention here is his Hashia on Fath al-Wahhab. So, in addition to Sheikh Al-Jamal, Al-Bujayrami also has a Hashia on that same book, Fath al-Wahhab, which is also a very important reference in the Shafii school. And then the second scholar that I wanted to mention is Sheikh Ibrahim Al-Bayjuri or Al-Bajuri or Bayjuri. Both are correct variations of his name. And Sheikh Ibrahim Al-Bayjuri passed away in 1276 Hijrah, and he is a prolific author who authored many different works, but the one that I wanted to mention here is his Hashia, which is perhaps his most famous and most important work in Shafi'i fiqh, is his Hashia on Ibn Qasim Al-Ghazi. His Hashia on Ibn Qasim Al-Ghazi, which is a commentary. This Ibn Qasim Al-Ghazi is a commentary on the matan of Abu Shuja'. Matan of Abu Shuja'. And we talked about Al-Qadi Abu Shuja' and his book Ghayatul Ikhtisar, which is called also Matan Abi Shuja'. So Ghayatul Ikhtisar was expanded by Ibn Qasim Al-Ghazi, and then that work was further expanded by Sheikh Ibrahim Al-Bayjuri in his Hashia, which is generally known as the Hashia of Sheikh Al-Bajuri. The Hashia of Sheikh Al-Bajuri on Ibn Qasim Al-Ghazi. So finally then, the 14th century. In the 14th century, there were also a number of Shafi'i scholars, but we want to mention two of them. The first one is Alawi ibn Ahmad al-Saqqaf. Alawi ibn Ahmad al-Saqqaf, who died in 1335, and his famous work is Al-Fawaid Al-Makkiyah. And then also another book called Mukhtasar Al-Fawaid Al-Makkiyah. which is a summary of Al-Fawaid Al-Makkiyah. Al-Fawaid Al-Makkiyah is a book which deals with similar topics that Al-Fawaid Al-Madaniyah deals with, of Sheikh Sulaiman Al-Kurdi. Al-Fawaid Al-Makkiyah is also a book that deals with the terminologies of the Shafi'i school, some of the main scholars, some of the main books, and how to give fatwa in the Shafi'i school, along with some other topics as well. So this is the first scholar that I wanted to point out. And then the second one is Sheikh Bakri Shata Ad-Dimyati. Sheikh Bakri Shata Ad-Dimyati, who died in the year 1302, and his famous work is I'ana At-Talibin. I'anatul Talibin, an important work that is generally referenced in the Shafi'i school, was authored by Sheikh Bakri Shata Ad-Dimyati in he died in 1302, rahimahullah ta'ala. So this, with this we come to an end with regards to following the development of the Shafi'i school from Imam al-Shafi'i until the 14th century. And now what I would like to do is talk about what's called by some as the golden chain in the Shafi'i school. The golden chain. Of the Shafi'i school. And this chain starts with Imam Shafi'i, and then Imam Al-Muzani, then Imam Al-Juwayni, then Imam Al-Ghazali, then Imam Al-Rafi'i, and then finally Imam Al-Nawawi. Imam Al-Shafi'i, Al-Muzani, Al-Juwayni, Al-Ghazali, Al-Rafi'i, and Al-Nawawi. This is what's called the golden chain. And what I would like to do is I would like to talk about each of the scholars in this chain in some detail. We've already talked about Imam al-Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala, about his life. So let's talk a little bit about Imam al-Muzani rahimahullah ta'ala. He is Ismail ibn Yahya al-Muzani. He died in 264 Hijri, as I mentioned before. And he was the mujtahid amongst the students of Imam al-Shafi'i. He was known for his ijtihad. When he wrote his books, he would oftentimes disagree with his imam, his teacher, Imam al-Shafi'i, and he would object to Imam al-Shafi'i respectfully, and he would have his own opinions. And therefore he is considered to be mujtahid mutlaq, mustaqil, by many of the researchers, including Dr. Muhammad Hassan Hito, hafidhahullah ta'ala. And as I mentioned before, Imam al-Shafi'i, one of the things that he said about Imam al-Muzani was that al-Muzani is the advocate of my madhab. Al-Muzani is the advocate of my madhab. Imam al-Muzani wrote a number of different books. The most famous ones are four: Al-Jami' Al-Saghir, Al-Jami' Al-Kabir, Al-Mukhtasar al-Saghir and al-Mukhtasar al-Kabir. Like I said, he has a number of different books, but these are the four most famous ones. And he is most well known for a book called Mukhtasar al-Muzani. Mukhtasar al-Muzani. Now there is some debate regarding whether Mukhtasar al-Muzani is this book or this book. Mukhtasar al-Muzani is referred to quite frequently by later Shafi'is. Shafi'i scholars who came after Imam al-Muzani, in their works they quote from Mukhtasar al-Muzani and they refer to it as Mukhtasar al-Muzani, the Mukhtasar of al-Muzani. But we know from biographical accounts of Imam al-Muzani that he had two Mukhtasars, al-Mukhtasar al-Kabir and al-Mukhtasar al-Saghir. So we're not sure whether when they refer to Mukhtasar al-Muzani, if they're referring to Mukhtasar al-Saghir or al-Mukhtasar al-Kabir. Now some of the researchers, modern day researchers, have concluded from their research about Imam al-Muzani that Mukhtasar al-Muzani refers to this, al-Mukhtasar al-Kabir. However, the popular view seems to be that it refers to this, al-Mukhtasar al-Saghir. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. At any rate, we do not have access to these two books today, and we only have access to one of these two because Mukhtasar al-Muzani is in print. It is available and it is in print. It's either this one or this one. And so if it is this one, then we don't have access to this today, and vice versa. Mukhtasar of al-Imam al-Muzani is a book that Imam al-Muzani wrote, which it represents a summary of the teachings of Imam al-Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala. In this book, Mukhtasar al-Muzani, Imam al-Muzani will frequently say, قال الشافعي. And then oftentimes he will want to give his own opinion, so he will say قلت. Okay, but when he says قال الشافعي, it's not like when Rabi' says قال الشافعي in al-Umm. When Rabi' says قال الشافعي in al-Umm, he is writing down the words of Imam al-Shafi'i verbatim because he was being dictated to by Imam al-Shafi'i, or he was copying from the writings of Imam al-Shafi'i. As for Imam al-Muzani, he is doing ikhtisar, he is doing an abridgment of the teachings of Imam al-Shafi'i in general. So he may be quoting Imam al-Shafi'i verbatim, but it's not necessarily the case that he quotes him. And so Mukhtasar al-Muzani is a book that is authored by Imam al-Muzani. It is not a book that was authored by Imam al-Shafi'i. However, it does contain the teachings, the summary of the teachings of Imam al-Shafi'i in all the issues of fiqh. So it is a complete work of fiqh from tahara all the way until the end about qada and kitab al-itq. It contains all the chapters of fiqh, and it does represent the teachings of Imam al-Shafi'i, and it became the most important work that later Shafi'is would use to write their own books. They would all go back to the Mukhtasar of Imam al-Muzani, whether it was in the tartib of the book, they followed the same order, the same sequence, the same layout in their books as was the layout of Mukhtasar al-Muzani, but they also took from Mukhtasar al-Muzani. They would take from what was found in Mukhtasar al-Muzani, and then they would explain or they would expound on that, or sometimes try to reconcile between various opinions that were found in Mukhtasar al-Muzani, or between Mukhtasar al-Muzani and Kitab al-Umm, and so on and so forth. So this became one of the most important early works of the Shafi'i school, in addition to Kitab al-Umm that was transmitted by Imam al-Rabi' al-Muradi rahimahullah ta'ala. And here I would like to mention a quote by Imam al-Bayhaqi, who said about Mukhtasar al-Muzani that I don't know any book written in Islam that is more beneficial, more blessed, and more fruitful than this book. And when he says fruitful, what he probably means is the number of books that came out as a result of this book, the number of commentaries that were written on this book, and the number of books that were written that used this book as a template and as a skeleton for their own, for themselves. So this became the blueprint for later Shafi'i works. In fact, this book was so famous that in those times when a woman was married to a man, she would be bid farewell. People would bid farewell to her, and she would leave her house and go with her husband, and what would go with her as her some of the things that her parents would give her as gifts. Part of the gifts that she would take with her to her husband's house would be the Mukhtasar of Imam al-Muzani. No bride's gifts would be complete from her parents unless the gifts had a copy of Mukhtasar of al-Imam al-Muzani rahimahullah ta'ala. So just to emphasize once again that this is the writing of Imam al-Muzani rahimahullah ta'ala, and in this book he quotes Imam al-Shafi'i, he paraphrases Imam al-Shafi'i, and he also interjects and objects sometimes to Imam al-Shafi'i and gives his own opinions, which oftentimes are contrary to the opinions of Imam al-Shafi'i, which is where the mujtahid nature of Imam al-Muzani comes to a full light. So that's what I want to say about Imam al-Muzani. Now let's move on to the next scholar in the golden chain, which is Imam al-Juwayni rahimahullah ta'ala. In fact, this might be a good time to stop, so I'm going to stop here insha'Allah ta'ala, and we'll continue with the rest of the golden chain in the next segment. Wa sallillahumma wa sallim wa barik ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
قوم إلى الله قد شدت عزائمهم وحبلهم بحبال الله موصول قوم على الملة السمحاء قد فطروا وشأنهم مع كتاب الله منقول أعطاهم الله ما شاءوا وأكرمهم كذاك قال الذي وفاه جبريل يا ربنا خذ بنا قلبا لساحتهم لنستريح ويحمى القال والقيل العلماء لهم جاه ومنزلة ووجههم عند مولى الفضل مقبول